Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. So if you are responsible for a team, maybe you own a company, and you want to make sure that they're performing at the best that they can, there's a couple of different things that are very important to recognize. We're talking about inclusive leadership. Within that, it is recognizing the skills of your team and putting them where they need to be, supporting your team's professional growth, even their personal growth, giving feedback, receiving and giving feedback, essential. How do you do that effectively without micromanaging? We're going to talk about that today. He is somebody that helps many people, many companies with inclusive leadership, and he is back with us from Saterman Connect. Josh Saterman out of New York City on the program once again. How you doing today?
I'm excellent, Steve. How are you today?
Real good, real good. Good to have you back here. And this is one of those topics where you know you should be doing it, providing feedback. You want to do it in the most encouraging way, but you also don't want to sugarcoat it because you want to make sure that what you say and do in the feedback process empowers, gets results. So I feel like it's a delicate balance. Where do we begin today on that?
Well, first and foremost, I always love to just remind ourselves of common language that feedback is typically done after something happens. And part of what inclusive leadership, building healthy cultures that are full engagement, part of developing your talent is sometimes you can actually offer what I would call feed forward. I didn't coin that term, but I certainly say that term because let's just make sure that we're understanding that the intention of feedback is not criticism, or the intention of feed forward is not criticism. The intention is to provide valuable insights, a perspective that maybe somebody doesn't see, an observation, not judgment. And it's in the spirit of being an ally, being an advocate, supporting somebody with growth and development. So I like to start by just giving like a baseline, because sometimes people hear the word feedback and they go, "Ugh," like, what's going to happen to me? And that's a common human reaction,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about throughout today's conversation.
100%. I mean, feedback's a nice word. Critique, that one kind of stings a little bit, or you
That's not
anticipate.
going, yeah.
Yeah. Side note, back in the day when I first started radio, we used to have, when you go on the air, they'd record it, and it used to be a critique session.
Yeah, Steve, we are a strength-based organization. So hashtag Gallup, right? We have to give Gallup their trademark credentials, but or credit. But Gallup has developed, some people call it Strength Finders. That's a little bit of a throwback name. But it's called Gallup Clifton Strengths. And we're certified in Gallup. We're certified in lots of different assessments: Hogan, Myers-Briggs, DISC, Insights, you name it. You name it, we got it. It's like the olive oil aisle. But the reality is that we became a strength-based organization because your strengths, your talent themes, using Gallup language, there's a 1 in 33 million chance that you will have the same top 5 as somebody else. So it's a very individualized assessment. I bring that up and talk about that because of what you just said, which is so many managers, as they're beginning their journey, are learning from those before them. And when they do that, what they do is they sit down to say, I have some feedback for you. And what they're leaning on is the gaps. And what we talk about is, how do we create balance within that structure? Some people call it a thank you sandwich, a compliment, a feedback, or a something, a criticism, and then another gratitude. That's one style. There's goods and bads, or pros and cons. Regardless, when you sit down with somebody, how do you help them, support them, navigate them, foster them to think about how to amplify their strengths, use what they do incredibly well, and then also identify the gaps or the development opportunities? And gaps do not mean that you're failing. Gaps mean that in your toolbox, you might have sharp tools, you might have dull tools, and you might have tools you don't have. And in order to get to the next level, whether that's lateral, vertical, whether it's ladders, whether it's waves. We talked about that in a previous conversation. The reality is that if you're in growth mindset, you're looking to get better every day. So for those managers out there who are trying to wrap their head around common language, whether we call it feedback, feed forward, the crux of feedback is how do you sit down with somebody and identify how to amplify their strengths and close the gaps that they want to invest in themselves to be able to close.
So should we repackage it instead of saying, let's say we've got uh, Mike, and he's been with us for about a year, and we want to just check in with him. He's doing some things right, some things that need a little bit of adjustment. I want to get him in here today. We're going to talk to him. What do I tell him? Got some ideas
Ooh.
for you. Got some ideas, that want to share or us we can talk about instead of calling it, yeah, I'm going to give you feedback. Come on in. Who wants to show up for that?
You're about to get some coaching here, Steve. Steve, have you asked this what's this gentleman's name again?
That's Mike. He's been with us just about a year.
Mike. So Mike, I hope you're listening. Mike, what are the ways you like to learn? I like to ask a question.
Hmm.
I like to ask a question because if you're looking to identify some feedback or some feed forward, right, it starts with understanding how do people receive information. So it may even be another question, which is, I'd love to talk about your development. Are you open to having that conversation? So you don't have to always say the words, are you open to feedback? What we learn as coaches is there's lots of entry points to what we call connect, right? And so the connection might look like, I've got some observations about how we can keep amplifying your impact here at the organization. You in a place that we can talk about that? Because you want reception, right? Some people I've asked that question of and they say, no, not today. I'm not, no, I'm not there today. Great. When will you be there? I'd like to address it the next couple of days. So I'd like to ask a lot of questions there. Does it make sense?
I love the questions. The rest surrounding it would have me on guard. I would still be a little like, this is going to be like, I always feel you always want to make it a positive. There's a positive in there. And even starting it with the positive things that somebody does, just recognizing, hey, you did a great job on that. Great job on that. Just want to, throw something to you, get your thoughts on this. Essentially, you're giving them feedback.
Well, listen, there is time. Let's not be sunshine and rainbows. There is time to say, I have some feedback for you, and it's really a learning opportunity. It's something that we need to work on together. So there is that level set of like, hey, there's some things here that are not working out so well, and let's talk about it, right? Brene Brown says, clear is kind and kind is clear. And I've said this before, one of the things I like that come out of AA and some of those programs is say what you mean what you say, don't say it mean. And so I offer that because truth talk is truth talk. If somebody is underperforming, you owe them the dignity of saying, hey, you're not meeting expectations. Let's talk about that. On the other side, though, feedback is a gift. And so if there really is an opportunity and you think this person has the capability or capacity to do something with it, it might look like this. I'll do as an example because I don't know Mike's background or I don't know where Mike shines. And so it might look like this. Steve. A couple weeks ago, you gave a presentation and I jotted down some notes. I wanted to marinate on it for a minute. And I want to share some observations. Are you open to that feedback?
Yes.
Are you open to that, Steve?
Absolutely.
Yes. Awesome. Great. I really wanted to amplify your strengths. You have this great presence. You came on and I saw people perk up. They loved hearing your voice. Steve, sometimes you talked too fast. And I think it's an opportunity for you to think about how you slow down a bit and let people catch up to you because your information was great. It was robust. It was meaningful. And the audience needed to just take a moment to just settle in. So in forward presentations, how might we support you in cadencing the way that you're delivering information? That's feedback.
Love it. Love it. It's very positive. I would take something away from that. You said something before that example that completely resonated and in my mind was a game changer in confronting the employee or the team member of the team. You said, we have some things that we need to work on together.
Yeah.
That changes everything. That's
Yeah.
just one word, together. I'm just my opinion, but that really that stands out. That stands out.
For any new managers on this call, for any existing or advancing managers, for any senior executives, for anyone that's listening to this today, what is so key when you look at EQ, and I hope that people can see me, but if not, I'm going to describe it, is when you point a finger at somebody, when you say you're responsible, you need, you have to, what you're doing is you're also pointing three fingers back at yourself.
Yep.
So much of leadership and management is identifying your role in advancing them into the organization. They're not there to take your seat. You're there to grow the organization so one day they fall into your seat. That's advocacy. And you ascend to where you want to go next. Just like, right, you're paying it to somebody that will come up in the ranks or through the ranks. Hopefully, somebody above you in that sense of quintessential hierarchy is doing the same for you. So when somebody says to me, my employee is failing, if we're coaching, I'm coaching a CEO and they say my leader is failing, my first question is what is your role in their success?
Mm.
What is your role in their success? If somebody truly is not exceeding expectations, have you set clear job expectations? Have you communicated where they're failing? Have you communicated where they're successful? Have you identified timelines for improvement? That's the role of a manager. In prior podcasts, I said managers are not ego. As high as a person still sits on their ass. So it's not about ego. It's not power. It's decision making. And part of that decision making is how will you decide as a manager to invest in the team that you've either inherited or you've hired?
Mm. There's accountability, and I'm seeing that even more and more as we talk about this. You have, insert hypothetical team member, employee Mike. He may be real good. He may be not so good, but ultimately it's the responsibility of his superior to make sure he's on track. Because we can't assume that he was given everything he needs to succeed.
Well, that's why we developed the Arrive Academy. I mean, shameless sales pitch, but to be honest, that was my love language. I
Mm.
worked. People can see through my LinkedIn. I worked at Macy's for a large number of years, and there were many things that Macy's did right. They had fairly significant leadership development programs. But what I found was missing for the larger organization was this opportunity to think about emerging leaders. How do you develop direct reports? What are the 5 C's of effective leadership? What are the differences between telling, teaching, and coaching? What are the ways that we collaborate and communicate to build alignment? Never mind agreement, but alignment. Workforce is about alignment, right? Brunch on a Sunday is agreement. Love a good mimosa, but for any of you who are Bloody Mary fans, I can go there too if we have to, but that's not what the workforce is about. It's about alignment. And so we developed the Arrive Academy and we developed the Drive Academy and then ultimately developed the Thrive Academy and offsites to meet people in their map of the world of what did they learn, what are they missing to be successful managers. And I know that we've taken a little bit of a turn. Feedback, feedback is everything. Feedback is everything for that emerging manager, both receiving it and being able to provide it, mirror it back. And so when we talk about feedback, we can't help but just go to the basics and say, where are you learning the power of your language? The way that you actually offer someone what I just did with you, Steve, is accountability, commitment, togetherness, insight, observations, right? So many people deliver feedback with judgment. And that's not that the manager is failing, that's the manager wasn't taught how to provide feedback properly.
Hmm. And if that employee is somewhat failing, they may not have been given the skills or taught. Uh,
Spot on.
your example was great in terms of the presentation because I felt it. You started with the information you have during your presentation is great. The way you deliver it is great. It seems to like you talk a little fast, and it's almost as if you switched it around that it's the audience's challenge to keep up with the employee. It's not just you
That's
talk too
right.
fast. Slow down, dude. Yeah, it's they're not getting it. It was kind of flipped around a little bit, and it felt good. It's like, yeah, you know what? That's a great tip. Mike probably didn't even realize that.
And that's why I said, if somebody is really under delivering, we can talk about that shortly, right? There's a different way to lens that, right? It's not to be soft, it's not to be fluffy, it's to be direct. It's just you can say it, you can mean what you say, you can mean what you say, right? But you don't have to say it mean. You
Mm.
don't have to say it mean. So and people feel it, right? So I'll give another example, just in that same line of presentation. I use that example a fair amount because I would come out of presentations all the time and people would say to me, "Great job." And the endorphins would go, "Ah, yes, great job," right? You'd feel great about it. And then you'd sit back in the desk and be like, well, what was great about it?
Yeah,
What do I do with that? So
yeah.
it feels
Because you want to
good, but you don't know what
duplicate
to
it.
do
You
with it.
want to do it
Correct.
again, but I don't know how to do it again because what was so great about it?
Correct. And so I had the fortune of having a really great leader. I always compliment her. Her name is Molly Langenstein. I give honor to that. Because of the work she's doing now with boards, and she's a former CEO and president, and she's been very successful. And she's the one that would deliver feedback to me. And it wasn't nice, it wasn't pleasant,
Hmm.
but it was impactful. It was pointed. It was demonstrating for me. She would always say to me, you're a teacher, Josh. You know how to connect with people. You're approachable. And here's where I need you to keep stepping up, stepping in, stepping up, stepping in,
Hmm.
right? And so it sometimes was a little stingy, right? It like, right? Because I wanted to impress her. It's not about liking. I mean, liking is lovely, but and now we are friends, and it's moved into something. But the reality is what she did for me as a leader is she taught me it was about impact. It was about career advancement. And career advancement doesn't mean hierarchy, doesn't mean, again, promotion. Career advancement means I'm learning how to build my toolbox and get those sharp tools sharper, get those dull tools sharpened, and put the tools in my toolbox that I needed to be successful, because what got me here would not get me there. Even if I was in the same role, everything changes, everything transitions. So feedback is about how you face that transition. And how do you, again, I used that language earlier today, how do you keep filling those gaps so that you are staying in growth mindset, you're growing and learning? And that's why how you receive it and how you provide it, not give it. Nothing, it's not an apple. You don't give it, you provide it. You provide
Hmm.
this opportunity for somebody to either receive it or turn it off. I've been given feedback before and I had to think about it for a while. And sometimes I don't action on it so quickly because I'm just going to let it settle in. Sometimes you action on it more quickly. So it's providing it, it's receiving it.
How do you, when you're going to provide that feedback, look at individuals? So you got Mike. He's pretty strong-willed. He's got a good personality. There's no real issues there. Then you have, uh, let's say, Joe. Joe is very sensitive.
Yeah.
The delivery seems to me has to be a little different. Would you agree? Do you have to read the person?
Yeah, I mean, my mom always said it's a various form of know your audience. She would say you need to communicate with people the way they need to hear the information, not the way you want to deliver the information.
Mm.
So yeah, I think sometimes it may sting or it may be more emotional. And emotions, by the way, is human. So I don't want anyone on this call. And Steve, your question is spot on. It's a brilliant question, and it's brilliant because we are human. So those that say, "Oh, I'm not emotional," that's bullshit. You sit back and you think about it. And if you don't think about it, that means you have an ego, right? Because anyone that's living in EQ, emotional intelligence, humility, self-awareness, knows they have opportunity to keep growing, right? So, and, right? Not but, and. And if somebody is feeling a bit more emotive in that moment, right? It's sensitive, or they've been given that feedback before, that's where coaching
Mm.
comes in. That's where the coaching and the power of asking questions. Hey, I want to be here to support you. I want to deliver some feedback. It may sting a bit. Let's work on what works for you to close these gaps. So I always provide the opportunity for somebody else. That's the power of coaching, is you don't have the answers, they have the answers. The question is what is their learning style? How do they want to receive feedback? Sometimes it's better in a coffee shop. Sometimes it's better going for a walk. Sometimes it's better
Mm.
being in a conference room. Sometimes it's better on the phone. sometimes better on a Zoom or a Teams, right? So communicate with people the way they want to receive the information, then ask the question, how do I support you?
I think
That's your role as a leader, right?
the intention is everything, because you just said in a feedback situation, you lean back for a moment and process it instead
That's right.
of, walking through the hallway. Hey, Mike, yeah, come here. I want to talk to you for a second. Whoa, think about it. How are you going to present it? Just like you said, in that example where he was praised for his information and delivery, except his delivery was a little too fast. And
Yeah.
that there could be, that other employee, Joe, you got to change it all up. Like you said, we got to meet at Starbucks because, I can feel when Joe comes into my office, whoa, he's like very tense. But
Yeah.
he's great at what he does, but we need to tweak him a little bit. So we need to go, more of a social setting. So I think it's, what I'm getting from you, the intention, you know, thinking about
Right.
it ahead of time before you react or provide that feedback.
Yeah, I'll give a couple quick examples. And the most popular, well, one of the most popular things I hear from leaders, managers, both can be true, right? Is I have no time. I have no time. Well, again, that's bullshit. And sometimes I have to say to a CEO, as high as a person sits, they still sit on their ass. And I say it not to be demeaning or not to be difficult. We built a relationship to go there, but direct is direct, clear is kind, kind is clear. If you don't have 30 minutes to sit with your person and support their growth and development, you shouldn't be a manager. And maybe that's provocative, but the reality is that that's your job. Your
Mm.
job is to grow and build a team. Your job is to make sure that team has all the resources they need to be successful, even in a moment where resources are limited, right? You got to be a MacGyver. You got to make that paper clip, that flashlight, and a match work for you. And that's your job as a leader is to find ways to move forward. That's your job as a manager is to invest in your team.
Mm.
So sometimes I do have to provide that direct feedback, and I have to say, and this is an example of tougher feedback, my expectation of you as a leader, as a manager, is that you are investing in your people. And I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that intention to carve out that time purposefully to provide feedback, to provide tough talk, radical candor, and to provide ways to amplify strengths to get the most out of your people. How are you going to provide from, excuse me, how are you going to prioritize your calendar to ensure that you are getting your job done and part of your job getting done is investing in your people?
Those two words you just used a moment ago, amplify strengths. Whoa. I mean, that just feels so empowering. When somebody takes the time to amplify somebody's strengths, it seems to me that's magic. Magic ensues.
I mean, your job as a leader and as a manager is the five T's: teach, train, tolerate, transfer, or terminate. And
Ooh,
too many people forget that when you teach somebody something, you're imparting knowledge, you're imparting something. The train is 90 days, 30 days to change a behavior, but really 90 days to embed. And that's a variable. I mean, certainly sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 180. It depends on the complexities.
sure.
And people struggle in each of those five T's. How do I intentionally set out to train? Whether I do it or somebody else does it, right? Again, shameless plug. That's why we're here. Saterman Connect is here to be able to support training and development, not compliance, right, per se only, but also development, right? Teach it. Are you going to then tolerate behavior? Or tolerate gaps? Are you going to transfer them to something that amplifies their strengths? I've done that several times in my career where I'm like, this is not the right job for you because this is not allowing you to amplify your strengths. Are you open to another opportunity within the organization? And if the answer is yes, let's find that. I'm not going to pass along a problem to somebody else to manage. That's shitty leadership. What I am going to do is say this person has these kinds of strengths and they may not be best in buying. Wow, they are great at marketing. I think we should give them that shot in marketing because it's putting their technical and their critical skills in the right seat, right? Right butt, right seat within an organization. So I love the organizational development, organizational design work that we do, right butt, right seat. And then the last two T's are you going to tolerate it or terminate? And if you're tolerating, what that means to me is as a leader, you're afraid of giving feedback. As a
Mm.
manager, you're not sure how to provide feedback. So if you're listening to this and you're living in that tolerate, let's talk about it. Let's figure out a way to get you comfortable. Don't use my language. Use your own language. Find your own model and make sure that your impact matches your intentions. You said that earlier today, Steve, your intentionality here. Yeah, I'm very intentional about my intentions should match my impact. And you as a manager or leader should be doing the same.
Learned a lot today. Gotta be honest. This is and it's very delicate territory. I feel when you're in the feedback area, there's so much at stake. There's emotion. There's personality. There's a lot going on. So I appreciate it. I think we hit a lot. Saterman Connect is your website, Saterman, satermanconnect.com. I have a somewhat unrelated question.
Please.
Your logo seems like it's an elephant. I'm trying to, and I just looked at it quick before. Tell me about it.
Thank you for asking. My grandfather and I were very, very close. He grew up without much money. And in essence, when we were building the company, I wanted something, a piece of my grandfather with me. So much of what I've learned throughout my life has come from my grandfather. And he used to go around the world collecting elephants. And so the elephant to me is not only a symbol of my grandfather, it's a symbol of wisdom, it's a symbol of connection. Ubuntu is one of our values, which essentially means we are who we are because of those around us. For any of you basketball fans, you'll throw back to the Celtics in the mid early 2000s, right? When they won their championships, because that was their saying is Ubuntu. We are who we are because of those around us. And that's what the elephant holding that branch, my grandfather would say a stick has two sides. Another variation on yin and yang, or that idea of balance. And so the elephant holding up this stick in honor of balance, in honor of perspective, in honor of we are who we are because of those around us. That's what the elephant means.
I love you and what you do, and now even more.
Thank
In
you so much,
in
Steve.
in hearing that, and some I don't overthink things, but I was looking for the connection to what you do with the elephant. Um, there doesn't need to be a connection, but even what you said, there is a connection. And your grandfather, wise man. Wow,
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Steve, for asking that question. I appreciate that.
super cool. Thank you for being here. We'll catch up next week.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.